Ok, listo. Entonces ya podemos empezar, ok. Muchísimas gracias a todos por estar aquí con nosotros. Ya está Verónica con nosotros. Hubo un problemita de horario porque ella está en Canadá, en Alberta. Allá están como a una hora atrasada de nosotros. Entonces, 8 de acá son 7 de allá. Entonces ya empezamos. Les agradecemos a todos por su paciencia. Pues somos la maestría en estudios críticos de las migraciones contemporáneas. Ahorita ya vamos a hacer todo en inglés. Es la primera vez que lo vamos a hacer en inglés. Y bueno, Veronica, please. We are very happy today to welcome from Canada our friend Veronica Fynn to our master program, Maestría en Estudios Críticos de las Migraciones Contemporáneas, based in Colombia at Pontificia Universidad Javeriana. Veronica, our friend, is an assistant professor of legal studies at Athabasca University in Canada. She is our president of International Association for the Study of Forced Migration, IASFM. Today, we are going to talk about an important issue, not only for academics specialized in migration studies, but also for practitioners from the civil society, as well as for migrants and refugees interested in networking with other national and international actors and in co-producing knowledge with them. Academic networking and co-production of knowledge are two topics of special academic and political importance in our globalized world. As the director of this master program and a member of IASFM since 2016, I think Veronica is very qualified to talk with us about both issues. Who is Veronica? She is I have to talk about you because I say that you are very qualified.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Veronica is a multi-award winner and a passionate academic advocate. Holding 6 academic degrees from 4 continents, she has researched, taught, consulted, and presented at conferences in over 30 countries. She's authored 5 books, several book chapters, and journal articles. She is the founder, editor-in-chief of the Journal of Internal Displacement, the co-lead of Law and Society's collaborative research network, Displaced Peoples, the lead of Law and Society Association's International Research Collaborative, Disrupting Patriarchy and Masculinity in Africa, the founder, the voice of West African refugees in Ghana at the Buram Refugee Settlement in Ghana. She is also the Australian National University International Alumna of the Year 2021 and a co-chair Africa Interest Group, American Society of International Law. Currently, she is an Action Canada Fellow and director of Flowers School of Global Health Sciences. Veronica is a born and bred Indigenous Liberian war survivor. Veronica, welcome to our master program. Please take over.
Thank you so much, Willie. That was so kind of you. And I again apologize for the mistaken timing. It always happens with these extender and international virtual thing these days. All the time we get the time zones wrong and mistaken. So I really apologize. And I'm so grateful to you for the opportunity to share and tell you about ISFM and other networks that are so important in the field of forced migration and displacement. We want you, all of you that are listening, to be part of these networks, and you don't necessarily have to come and join ISFM, but there are other networks that are doing some amazing work that is important for knowledge production. So I really want to encourage all of you to take some time to research some of the information. I will pass them on to Woody. When we have finished, I will send him some documents and things to share with everybody so people can be familiar with some of the work that we do and the networks that are out there. So I'll try not to take too much time because I want it to be a conversation as well. I want you to be engaged and I want you to ask questions. I want you to make comments. So I would try to just, brush over ISFM and tell you about some of the organizations out there and then open the floor for questions in terms of getting involved. Unfortunately, my Spanish is not so
No
good.
problem.
I'm so grateful that, Woody can speak Spanish and English, and I can pick up a little bit based on my knowledge in French. But my French, I can't speak to you in French either because I didn't prepare to do that. So I'm grateful that you're going to make that extra effort to listen to me in English. And if you have questions, you can stop me in between and ask.
Okay.
Because sometimes I tend to speak fast. So if I'm speaking too fast, please just tell me too fast, or you have a question you didn't understand so I can repeat myself, because I know what it means to have a second language. And so when I'm speaking and learning and talking in French, I'm also like, this is hard. So I know the feeling. All right. So without further ado, let me just tell you, the brief overview is basically, I want to tell you about ISFM. Of course, because I'm the president of ISFM, Woody is part of ISFM. So I want to encourage all of you to be a part of this amazing network, but also there are other international networks out there that is really doing some good work on scholarship and knowledge production. And I would love for you to have that choice, that option to join either of them or more than one of them, because we're in an unprecedented time when it comes to forced migration. We are facing a challenge that has never been faced on a continent in the world before. So in order for us as academics, in order for us to contribute our part of trying to address, because I'm not sure we have the solution, but trying to address the situation of forced migration and displacement, it is important that at least we are knowledgeable about what is going on. We are connected to the relevant resources that are in the situation. We are connected to people who have lived the situation. We are connected to people who are out there practicing and protecting and working with people in the situation. And we are making knowledge. We're creating knowledge. We're writing books. We're writing journal articles. We're writing blogs. We're writing opinion pieces, and we are engaged. I don't think we were put on this earth for anything. We were put on this earth for something. And as something, everybody has to define their own purpose. And for me, my purpose is, as someone who has survived war and forced migration and been an immigrant to so many places around the world, my goal is that young children who are in a situation should never face that terrible experience that I had, because I know what it means to be in war. I know what it means to be separated from your family. I know what it means to be traumatized for the rest of your life from violence. I know what it means to be an immigrant and a refugee in other countries where you are never welcome, you're never accepted, you're always vulnerable to all kinds of violence and abuse. So I pray that that experience that I've had will not continue for young children. So this is my purpose, and I try to do that through my writing and through events like this, encouraging you to be a part of an organization that will reduce the burden and the problems of children, especially girls that are facing this situation. So I will tell you a little bit about ISFM.
Mm-hmm.
So International Association for the Study of Forced Migration, IASFM. It brings together academics, practitioners, and decision makers working on forced migration issues. So We are big. We don't just focus on academic, because the truth is, when you write something in a book, it doesn't necessarily apply in the real world. So we want to be able to work with people working on the field, with people who are also in the situation. We want to collaborate with them. We want them to be a part of informing the scholarship and the writing and the books and everything that we do. So ISFM comes together with academics and practitioners, plus decision makers. So we work with governments, we work with the UN, mostly the UNHCR and ROM, but other UN organizations, to make sure that those in power making decisions are also informed by the work that we do on the ground. And in return, we are also learning from their policy work, their law, or their legal instruments that they produce. We receive it and we want to be able to review it and give feedback on those things as well. So that's ISFM. It's a nonprofit. It started way back in 1998 at Oxford University with the International Secretariat on the Refugee Studies Center. So we had a big history and connection to the Refugee Studies Center. But after a while, ISFM decided that they wanted to be an independent nonprofit, not associated with a particular university. So ISFM started as an independent nonprofit organization. So we have our secretariat right now at York University in Canada, but York University does not own ISFM. It's an independent association. So one thing, I'm sorry, but I really will have to say this. We're run by executive. And of course, as Woody said, I'm the president. And Woody last year sat on one of the subcommittees because members of the organization get to be involved in what we are doing. So, but we have our executive committee, which comprise of the president, the vice president, the treasurer, the secretary, communication officers, program affairs and innovation, fundraising and development, program committee chair. So I want to make this plea. Right now, we are missing a treasurer, and we are missing a fundraising and development, and we are missing a program community chair. So we have 3 positions open. If you are interested, please contact me. Please, if you're interested in being a part of ISFM and contributing towards forced migration and making sure that we are doing our part to address the situation, please, you're welcome to contact me, and I'll provide more information on how you can submit your application to be part of the executive committee. So the biggest thing of ISFM is our conference. We have conference every 2 years. So our last conference was just the 1st to the 5th of August, 2022. It was fantastic. The theme was global issues, regional approaches, context, challenges, dialogues, and solutions. And it was held in Brazil at the Universidade Católica de Santos, Unisantos in Brazil. It was fantastic. We had over 200 members attending the conference, and we had a total of, how many abstracts we had? We had over 300 abstracts, including keynote address, dialogues, showcases, publishing documents, themes and cluster, forum, practice and best practice showcases, panel and paper presentations. We had art expressions, and of course the big ones were the opening ceremonies, the closing ceremony, and usually we have our general meeting, because we don't have an annual meeting. We meet every 2 years, so we have a general meeting where we have our election and we elect our executives to run. ISFM is very, very member driven, is focused on democratic leadership. That is, before we make any decision, we let the members know, and the members are actively involved in the direction of the organization. So that's one of the things I really personally like about ISFM. It's not a top-down approach where you have the president deciding and telling everybody in the organization what to do. No, the president has some power, but not that kind of power where we want to make decisions about developing a new program or doing something that is beneficial to the organization. We send it out to the members and let the members get involved in it, and they decide, they vote upon it before we take a decision on that. So that's our conference is held. The next conference will be in 2024, and it will be in Kenya, in Nairobi, Kenya. So you're all invited to come. We are hoping I will
Kenya.
Yeah, we are really hoping it will be in person. Because we haven't had an in-person conference since the last one, this one, because of COVID. But we are really hoping it will be in person and everybody can come over to Kenya. Yeah. So any questions so far, Woody?
No. Pueden preguntar. You can ask. I am here, so I can translate. But let's see if we have questions in Facebook. En Facebook tenemos preguntas. Sebastián. Hasta ahora tenemos preguntas, Sebastián.
No, por el momento no hay preguntas.
No. Everything is clear.
I'm glad to hear that.
So keep talking.
Okay.
We are very happy to hear you.
I'm glad to hear that. Okay, so apart from our conference, another big thing we're deciding to do, because we had working groups, so small groups, subgroups that come up with different topics and ideas to work on different projects. But now last year to this year, we're coming up with a new idea called clusters. So it's a new idea of the working group. And I'm encouraging you again, I'm really shouting out there to say, please come and be a part of ISFM. If there is a project you're doing and you're part of a small researcher or research group, and you want to be able to disseminate that knowledge, you want to be able to come up with reports or journal article and present it at a conference based on your small research you're doing, let us know. Come to ISFM and let us know. We have small grants. We haven't decided how much to allocate yet, but we have small grants that we'll give to clusters. And you decide your topic, you decide who you want to be a part of it. It doesn't matter where you are. In the end, you have to be a member of ISFM, which is relatively cheap. Our membership is not expensive. And if you come from the Global South and you're a student, you don't have enough money, we cater for, I think it's like $20 for 2 years. So, and we also waive membership. If you're not able to afford it, we never turn away people if they're not able to afford membership. So if you come and say, you know what, I just can't afford the membership, it's too much for me, we will still consider it. So we never turn away people because they can pay their membership fees. But the important thing is with the cluster, it gives everyone that is part of ISFM the opportunity to delve into a research topic that they're interested in. And it will take over about 2 years because our conference is every 2 years. So we will start the first call for research project in October this year. So keep your eye out with it so that you can share it with your colleagues. And then you submit your application or your project that you're interested in. We will vet it and we want to make it manageable. So I think we want to choose between 6 to 10 projects over the 2 years. So you're welcome. We want to invite you when you see the call for projects, submit your projects, and we'll, once you're selected, we'll provide a little bit of money for you to be able to work on your projects and do, it's not a big project, because we can afford to give thousands and thousands of dollars, but it's something that is manageable that you can work on over the next 2 years at least, and then present it at the conference. You'll be expected to do that presentation of the project you're working on at the conference in Nairobi in 2024. So that's the cluster.
Veronica,
Yes.
thank you very much. Let's talk now about the concept of forced migration. You know, in French, we have no problem, migration forcée, no problem. But in Spanish, so I think that we don't use very often this concept, you know. So we talk about refugees, we talk about the internal displacement, because here in Colombia we had or we have a war, you know.
Yes.
So we know about these both notions, you know, refugees and internal displacement. But we don't talk too much about the concept of forced migration. Please talk with us about this concept.
Okay. No, I think it's you made the points clear. I think sometimes language, you know, things get lost in translation, right? In some language, certain word is not there, or certain concept, as you put it, is not there. So it's very hard to think about it. It's very hard to actualize it and realize it and make sense of it. And I see where you're coming from. I think the whole idea about migration comes from the fact that as human beings, we always move to a place where we will preserve our life. That's the whole, for me, that's the whole original concept of migration. Since we were prehistoric, since we were primitive, early human beings, we always, if we're living here and we realize the land is dry, especially for indigenous peoples like us who live off the land is dry, there is no water, we move. We move to another place to find food, to find habitable environment. If it's too cold, we're going to die. We are human beings and we believe in preserving our life. That is a natural phenomenon. So then if we're too cold, if we're too hot, now we've developed jackets to wear. But those days, people move from a colder climate to a warmer climate so that they can be able to survive. Animals do it too, right? So that's the basic concept of migration. When we bring it today and put in the context of, say, Colombia, or put in the context of Liberia, of, you know, where we are all going through. Liberia war is now over, technically, but Liberia is a post-conflict country. We move because there is violence going on. So that movement, I'm not using migration because that's another word for migration, to move, right? So in Liberia, Colombia, if I'm home and I'm having my peaceful time, I'm having time with my children, I'm working on my farm, and somebody comes with a gun and wants to kill me, what do? I run away, right?
Yeah.
So I am forced to move because my life is at risk, right? And so that's the whole idea of forced migration. And now in our times, apart from war being the main driver of forced movement, of forced migration, now we know people are hungry because government take power, they don't care about the people, they focus on themselves, they don't take care of their citizens, there is no job. As a young person, you want a job to be able to make money and feed your family. If you can't, you are compelled to leave. And that compulsion is what it feels like you're forced, you're not leaving by your own will. And that is a problem. People, because there's a difference between somebody saying, you know what, I have a lot of money, I want to go to Colombia to study. That's voluntary. You have that power, you have that will, you can afford it, you can pay for your visa. But for me and a lot of Colombians who have to cross border, not displaced within the country, who have to cross border, we leave because we have no other option, and I mean it. Because sometimes people like to say, you have another option, just stay there. No, because they don't want you to come to their country. But we have no other option. So we cross borders. And when we cross those borders, that's the forced migration. We are seeking protection from other countries. So for me, that's how I perceive that whole concept and idea of forced migration.
Thank you very much.
Sense?
Yeah, of course. So another question. We are talking about co-production of knowledge, but that means academia and civil society must have some kind of relationship, But for example, here in Colombia, academia and civil society are two separate worlds, So could you please tell us what kind of tools and strategies we can use in order to have a more closer relationship between academia and civil society?
That's a very, very good question. And it's one personally I grapple with. So when you were reading my bio, you remember my biography, you remember you said I'm an academic advocate. And what that means is I'm an academic and I'm a practitioner. I'm part of the civil society as well.
Oh, wonderful.
But yes, so I combine those two things.
Okay.
Because I strongly believe we need both to be able to do this kind of work that we do in forced migration.
Of course.
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to be critical here. I think the problem is from the academic world.
Okay.
I think so.
Why,
Yes.
Veronica?
Yes, I'm coming there. I think we've created a society of hierarchy, right?
Okay.
We created a society where we value university education as opposed to the community and people who haven't had PhD or masters or they can do research. And I think that's where this separation is coming from. We feel in academic, we are here, and the people in the field working, they're there because they don't have the theoretical and the analytical and the critical analysis of whatever concept we are working on. So I think the problem is from academics.
Okay.
I think the best solution, if in terms of, or the best way I can suggest in terms of merging, I think academics in Colombia need to take the initiative to reach out to the community in a genuine way, because sometimes the community feel you're just coming in to extract information and go and turn your back and never return, right? So academics need to be genuine and respectful. When you come to the community, come with humility and respect. That yes, I have a PhD and I'm interested in learning about your experience as a migrant, as a displaced person, as a war survivor, but I know your lived experience is also valuable. And without you informing me and telling me about your lived experience, I would not be able to produce the knowledge and the work that I do. So I think because the community is intimidated, is afraid, they have fear to reach out to the academics because they feel they're up there. They can reach to them. So I think the community needs to come, the academic needs to come down to the level of the community and the civil society and reach out and say, look, we want you to be a part of the work we're doing, and in a really meaningful, because sometimes people say, I want you to be a part of my work, but they don't let them make decisions. They don't let them contribute. They just want to put their name on a paper. No. You have to be sincere about it. You have to get into the community and be willing to listen.
Okay.
Be willing to listen. You see, I got to this point of deciding to be an academic advocate because I'm a war survivor. I was there before. I didn't have any university education. People would come from the UNHCR in their white cars. They would come to the refugee camp with books and, doing their thing in their cars. It's all air conditioned and closed window. And they come and they look few minutes or few hours around and with their nice clothes and get back into their car and go. I was there. So I know how it can be so, low. They look down on you. You don't, because you're dirty, you're a war survivor, you don't have money, you don't have food, you rely on them for everything. So they look down on you. And so now that I've gotten to this point where I have the university education to have that power and authority, I would never forget where I came from.
Okay.
Never.
Wonderful.
So that's why I feel, even when I go back home and go and do research, on a refugee camp or in Liberia, I still, like I've told you, I still apply the same thing. I go there and I humble myself. I listen because I've also transitioned, right? I've left that life that they are now living and come to the West and acquire so much. So I've acquired some privilege.
Yeah.
So when I go back, I make sure I put my nose down. I listen. Yes.
Thank you, Veronica. How can we improve the co-production of knowledge, between academia and the community, How can we improve that?
Another good question. How to improve the production of knowledge through cooperating with the civil society. Very, very important. You see, we have the skills, right? We've set up this system called education, or the West have set up this system called education. And education, like I said, is very hierarchical. It does put people in different categories. Oh, you don't have university education, so you don't think the way I think. I don't argue with you. I don't talk to you because you don't reason the way I reason. But it shouldn't be like that. And like I said, academics need to come down to the level of the civil society. The civil society have their personal and lived experience. They may not have the skill. I believe some of them, a lot of them have the skill to communicate and to write about their experiences. But it may not be in a conventional style that we as academics have been taught to do, to write a book, to write a journal article, to write a report or a policy brief. The community and the civil society may not have that skill. So that collaboration means you as an academic, you have the skill in writing conventional documents. That is a book or a policy document or a report or a journal article. You know the content, you know how to organize it. You collaborate with the community and you make sure you're having some serious ethical concerns about consideration about that. And when I say ethical consideration, when you take when you work with the community and they inform your work, your research, your production of knowledge in the form of book or policy document or whatever you're working on, you have to give them credit. Okay. Right?
Good.
That's the thing. You have to, because and once you do that, then the community will start to build trust in you. And it would be like, oh yeah, Woody is very genuine in the way he works, and he respects me. We collaborated on this project, and I feel like I had a role and ownership of the project as well. My name was on the program, even though I'm not a doctor, even though I'm not a PhD, but my name was also on the program. I was part of the authorship of this program. Because who says that you must have a PhD to have your name on a journal article? Who said that? It's very colonial thinking. It's very discriminatory. It's very racist in a way, because most of the people who don't have access to education or access to this kind of wealth of knowledge are people who are brown and Black and indigenous that have been marginalized for centuries. So who said you must have a PhD to publish a paper in a journal? Okay, if you must have a PhD now, Woody has a PhD, but Woody can collaborate with the community and add the civil servant community name to that project. And nobody's going to say, no, you can add their name on it. Then if they refuse, then you go and find another place to produce your work.
Thank you, Veronica. So we are talking, no?
We are talking.
Yeah, Veronica, how to include a race and gender perspective in our research on forced migration. So here we talk about intersectionality, no? So please talk with us about this issue.
Good question. Good. I mean, the questions are so solid. They're so good. They're so relevant. And I'm really hoping that everyone is listening is taking something away from it. I love to hear back from the participants. I love to hear how they feel about this information and how they can incorporate it into their work as well. I'm curious to know.
Okay.
Race and gender, yes, is very fundamental to our work. At least for me, I focus on critical race theory. I focus on intersectionality. I focus on post-colonial studies. I focus on feminists. Of course, I am a proud feminist. I don't hate men. I should definitely say I'm a feminist, but I don't hate men.
Okay.
I believe, because I think sometimes when we say we are feminists, men think, oh, you hate all the men, you don't like men. It's not true. I have a husband, I have a son, and I love them. And I love Woody too. I love every man. So we don't hate men. So but race and gender is so fundamental to the work that we do, because like I said, certain group of people are marginalized and not given opportunity to be part of this whole idea of knowledge production. So Woody, you can attest to it. When you go out there and you look at the so-called leading scholars in migration, do you see yourself represented in our population? It's mostly white people.
Yeah.
And mostly white men.
Yeah.
I don't see myself represented
patriarchy,
right? Exactly. White patriarchy. So, and then of course, I mean, Black men are also patriarchal, but generally when we are talking about international setting within the UN, international organizations, organizations that deal with protecting migrants and forced migrants, they're mostly white men who have never had the experience of what it means to be a war survivor.
Yeah.
And when you look in academia, the same thing, as it's very, very painful too, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at academia as well, yes, some of us have been given the opportunity to get to acquire education and be a part of knowledge production. But our work usually don't get accepted. And the blocks we face before we can get, there is a saying that for you as a woman to get anything successful or anything achieved as a man, you have to do it 3 times more. Because our social constructs of gender, right? As a woman, I'm a mother. I have to look after the child. My responsibility is looking after the house. But in addition, I'm also a professional. So by the time I finish cleaning the house, right now I'm doing laundry. My husband dropped our son to school. So when I finish with this presentation, I'm going to continue doing the laundry, and I'll be doing it good that I'm working from home, right? I'll be doing the laundry and be doing I'll come back to the computer, work a little bit, check the laundry after 1 hour, and come back again. And then by 6 o'clock, 4:30, I go and pick up my son from school. I bring it in and we start to do dinner. Most of the time, I mean, I'm grateful I have a husband who does the house chores as well, but generally you're the one who are doing the dishes and you're doing the cooking. In this house, I do most of the cooking because my husband is not very good at cooking. Why? Because society has raised us as women should cook. So most of the time the men don't really know how to cook. They want to learn how to cook, but they don't know how to cook. So by the time you finish with all these blocks, it's very difficult for you to be able to achieve something as a woman, as a Black woman, as a Black Indigenous woman. So talking about intersectionalities, right? All this intersection of being your race, you're Black, your identity as an Indigenous person, you know, your sex or your gender as a woman or another a non-conform or a lesbian or a gay person. All these intersections of your personality, of your identity, they accumulate to create more blocks, which make it difficult for you to achieve anything. Which is why in our topic of work, in our line of work, forced migration, we have to have a special lens.
Okay.
Include race and include gender. And how do we do that? First of all, my idea would be to go and talk to the people that are affected by their race and their gender. If you're working and you're doing and you're producing a book and you're not including a woman in our book, you're not including you're a white person or you're privileged in our society and you're not including somebody who is not privileged, you should question your work. Not write about them, not write about women when you haven't had the experience of being a woman. Not write about a Black person or an Indigenous person when you have no clue what it means to be an Indigenous person.
Yeah.
It's important. So it goes back to that question of the civil society, right? The civil society is more engaged with the community. And so that's why academics need to work with civil society because it cuts across race and gender and indigeneity.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. We have a question.
Yes,
that comes from the public. So I try to translate into English.
Okay.
Sometimes it is necessary to take into account the times and the process of the communities and of the researches. So how is it possible to combine all these times? This is the question.
It's a very good question.
You understand?
Yes, I
Okay.
understand the question. It's a very, very good question.
How to combine?
Yes, how do you combine the time and the process it takes? Because in academic, for example, you know, say you're doing your PhD, you're given probably a year to go and collect your data in the field. And then you go to the community, you want to collaborate with the community to extract your data, but the community is not ready. The community have their own way of doing things. They're not reliant on your university saying you have to graduate in 3 years or you have to finish your field work in 1 year. So it's a challenge. The truth is, it's not easy. I wouldn't tell you it's easy. I've been there and I know what it means. Going to rural Liberia, where there is no water, there is no electricity. There is no internet. And it just takes a long time, as the person who asked the question said, for you to get any information from the community. And sometimes there were language barriers. I went to the rural community for my PhD data. I didn't speak some of the language that people spoke in rural Liberia, and I needed people to help me. So I would go to the community and ask somebody to come and interpret what I was saying and make sure that it's relevant to what the community is experiencing. Because if you go and ask them some stupid academic question that they have no clue, what is intersectionality? You have to break it down. And to be able to do that, you have to spend some time. And those times, like this question is asking, could be a long time. It requires a lot of patience, and it requires our system, our academic system, snapping out of this convention and being ready to open up and be flexible if you really want to be inclusive. That it doesn't fit into your model of what you're expecting. It's not an easy, that's a very good question, and that's a difficult question to answer. It's not easy. And of course, if you're doing a PhD or you're working on a project, the money that is provided is not forever. The money ends, right? You want to be able to exhaust the money within the time that you said you would do your work. But we need to get out of this mode that, it takes, yes, you can suggest that it would take you a year to work with the community to extract the information that you need to extract, but also be willing to accept the fact that the community is a life of its own. And they have a right to decide, today I don't feel like talking about this. So let's talk about it in a week's time. Or my children don't have food. For women, my children I don't have 1 hour to come and sit here with you to talk about what you want to do with your work. I need to go and find food for my children to eat, or I don't have a home to stay in. So, these are real life experiences that the community face. And then when we come, we just want to collect information and go. It's not possible. We have to be patient. We have to be empathetic. And sometimes we'll have to be able to assist financially. Because if you're interviewing somebody and they're hungry, you can't just continue the interview. You maybe want to give them $1 or $2 or buy them a plate of food, of rice or something to eat. That's being realistic. You can just sit there and extract information from somebody who has, is going through war or has survived war and is struggling and can't. You have to do something about it. It's not that easy because you as a researcher, you also may not have the money. When I was collecting my data, I was a poor student. I had no money. But empathy, sometimes the community can see that you really care and you're genuine. Empathy and patience and ability to listen. That's what I think.
Wow. Thank you very much, Veronica. As you can see, Veronica is very qualified to talk with us about this issue.
Thank you.
Veronica, thank you very much. We know that you are a busy person. You are our president. So thank you very much. We will be very happy to talk to you again in our master.
I would love that.
So this is only the beginning.
Yes, I always love to be a part of it.
So thank you very much. Agradecemos a todos, a todas por su participación, por su presencia. El video va a estar ahí para que ustedes lo puedan ver. Si tienen algunas preguntas, pues pueden hacerlas y bueno, pues con Verónica trataremos de responder. Bueno, muchas gracias. Have a wonderful day. a
Thank
wonderful
you.
weekend, Veronica.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. And definitely, please ask me to come back again because I love to come back again. And this time we have to make sure the time is correct.
Yeah,
We don't
yeah.
have any confusion with the time.
Sorry for
It's
that.
so nice to see you, Woody. Thank you for the
Okay.
opportunity.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.